Snow fell softly over the city that Christmas Eve, blanketing the streets in a quiet stillness that only winter could bring. Christmas lights twinkled in shop windows. Families hurried by with wrapped gifts in their arms, and the smell of roasted chestnuts filled the air. But among all that warmth and laughter, one man's heart felt cold and empty. Ethan Walker, a single father in his mid-30s, stood outside a toy store, staring at the reflection of himself and his little daughter, Lily. He had worked double shifts all month just to afford her one gift, a simple stuffed bear she had wanted for months. Life hadn't been easy since his wife passed away 2 years ago. He was still learning how to balance fatherhood and survival, how to smile for Lily when inside he felt like breaking. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, then pause for a second, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Let's spread stories that remind the world there's still good left in it. As Ethan walked home that snowy night, holding Lily's tiny gloved hand, his mind wandered to memories of Christmases past, those filled with love, laughter, and the smell of his wife's baking. But now it was just the two of them, surviving in a small rented apartment above a grocery store. Lily's innocent laughter was the only thing that kept him going. When she asked, "Daddy, do you think Mommy can see us from heaven?" his throat tightened every time. As they passed by a bakery near the town square, Ethan noticed a woman sitting on the cold sidewalk, clutching 2 small children in her arms. Snow covered her hair, and her coat was thin and soaked. The twins, perhaps 3 years old, were wrapped in old blankets, their faces pale and red from the cold. In front of them sat a small cardboard sign that read, "Hungry. Please help us." Ethan stopped. Something inside him shifted. People walked by without noticing her, hurrying off to warm homes and festive dinners. The woman looked exhausted, her eyes glistening with tears as she tried to shield her children from the snow. Lily tugged at her father's hand and whispered, "Daddy, they look hungry." That tiny voice was all it took. Ethan walked into the bakery, bought 3 hot sandwiches and 2 cups of cocoa, and returned to the woman. When he offered the food, she hesitated for a moment before taking it with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. Ethan noticed her accent. It was soft, foreign. Her clothes, though worn, were once elegant. She didn't look like someone who had always lived on the streets. There was something in her eyes, something familiar, almost haunted. "It's okay," Ethan said softly. "Just make sure the little ones eat first." He didn't plan to stay long, but as he watched her break the sandwich into small pieces for her children, something compelled him to sit on the curb beside her. Her name, she said, was Clara. She had moved to the city recently with her husband, who had promised her a better life. But things went wrong. He left her suddenly, taking all their savings. She had nowhere to go, no family nearby, and the shelter was full for the holidays. "I thought I could make it until morning," she whispered, but the kids were crying from hunger. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He knew that desperation, that helplessness. He had felt it too when his wife died and bills piled up faster than he could pay them. The world could be cruel, but it was nights like these that tested the heart. "You can't stay here," he said finally. "Come with us." Clara shook her head, refusing at first, but when she saw Lily smiling at the twins, offering her own little scarf to one of them, her eyes filled with tears again. Within the hour, Ethan had them all in his small apartment. He set up blankets near the heater and gave the twins Lily's spare pajamas. Clara kept saying she didn't want to impose, but Ethan only smiled and said, "It's Christmas Eve. No one should be alone. Tonight." That night, as snow fell outside, Ethan cooked what little food he had: instant soup, a loaf of bread, and some cookies Lily had baked at school. It wasn't much, but laughter returned to that small apartment. The twins giggled as Lily shared her toys, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan saw his daughter's eyes sparkle with joy that wasn't shadowed by loss. Clara watched them, silent tears falling down her face. After the kids fell asleep, Ethan sat across from Clara at the kitchen table. He noticed her staring at the small picture frame on the counter, a photo of his late wife, Emma, holding baby Lily. "She looks kind," Clara said softly. Ethan nodded. "She was everything." There was a pause. Then Clara whispered, "Emma Walker. I know that name." Ethan frowned. Before he could ask, she continued, "I used to work at the same hospital where Emma was admitted. I was a nurse there, part of her care team." Ethan's heart stopped for a moment. He looked at her closely. "You were there when she—" Clara nodded. "She was so strong. Even in pain she kept asking about you and Lily. She told me to promise her something." Her voice trembled. "She made me promise that if I ever saw either of you struggling, I would help in any way I could. But I lost my job a year ago, and my own life fell apart. When I saw you tonight, I didn't even recognize you at first. But when you spoke, I remembered." Ethan sat in silence, stunned. The woman he had just helped, the stranger on the street, was the same person his wife had once trusted with her final moments. It felt like fate had drawn them together that night, as if Emma herself had led them to each other. He looked toward the window where snowflakes shimmered in the streetlight and whispered, "Maybe she did keep her promise, in her own way." The next morning was Christmas Day. The city was quiet, covered in white. The smell of coffee filled the apartment as the children woke to find small gifts under the tree. Ethan had stayed up late, wrapping what little he had, adding a few of Lily's old toys for the twins. Clara was speechless. "You didn't have to," she began, but Ethan interrupted gently. "Sometimes the best gifts are the ones we don't expect." Weeks passed, and Clara slowly got back on her feet. With Ethan's help, she found a job at a nearby clinic, and he started fixing up an old room in the building to turn into a daycare. The kids grew inseparable. Every evening, the two families would share dinner, laughter echoing through the once lonely apartment. And though Ethan still missed his wife deeply, he realized something profound, that grief doesn't mean the end of love. Sometimes love finds a new way to live on, through acts of kindness and new beginnings. Months later, on a spring afternoon, as the children played outside, Clara handed Ethan an envelope. Inside was a letter she had found in her old hospital bag, a letter Emma had written before she passed. It read, "To whoever finds this, thank you for caring for my family when I no longer can. Tell Ethan to keep believing in kindness, because love has a way of coming back when you least expect it." Ethan's hands trembled as he read the words, tears falling silently. He looked at Clara, who smiled softly. In that moment, he realized Emma's promise had come full circle, not through miracles, but through people who chose to care. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. It helps spread more stories that remind us humanity still exists. Comment below, "I still believe in kindness," because sometimes all it takes to change a life is one warm heart on a cold night.